There's a verse in the Parsha, and it goes as follows: Al tashes yadchem rasha lioseit chamas. Do not join hands with the wicked to be a witness for evil. And it, the simple understanding is that it means don't join somebody else who's giving false testimony. As we know in Judaism, you need two witnesses. So you have already one witness who's trying to cause harm to somebody else. Don't join that person, be the second witness, and thereby allow him to carry out his act. And it's a well-understood prohibition. You can't be a false witness. The Baal Shem Tov is a very, very novel understanding of this verse. And he says what it means is this Rasha is not referring to just any wicked person, but rather it's referring to the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, otherwise known as the Satan. And as we know that the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, is not only trying to get us to sin, but he's also the prosecutor. He's also the one trying to bring our bad deeds to the heavenly court and get us in trouble for it. So first he tries to be our friend. He tries to say, hey, do this, it's going to be so good. And then he turns around and he goes up and he tattles on us. Okay, so he says over here, Al tashes yadchem rasha, sometimes that evil inclination needs a witness to somebody else's doing. So he goes, let's say you see someone doing something wrong, and he goes up to the heavenly court, he says, this person did such and such wrong. And they say, well, do you have another witness? You only one, you need two. And he says, oh, I have another witness, because look, there's another person who also saw this person do something wrong and also sees him poorly for it. And that way, says the Baal Shem Tov, that what happens in this story is that the person who judged his friend wrongly ends up being the second witness, along with the evil inclination, along with the Satan. He becomes the second witness and ends up bringing harm, literal actual harm onto that person. From a spiritual perspective, of course, can bring harm onto his friends. So he says, don't be that second witness. Don't judge someone else falsely or wrongly or in a negative way to be a witness together with the Rasha over here referring to the Satan, the evil inclination. And what this tells us, something phenomenally deep as Baal Shem Tov, is that when we judge someone negatively, when we look at people and we see them do things that maybe we think are wrong, and maybe they might be wrong, but when we look at them in a negative way, it actually causes harm. We end up bringing harm potentially onto that person. It's something we kind of feel like our thoughts and our feelings are kind of free. As long as we don't do anything, we can have our judgments on others, and that's totally fine. And here the Baal Shem Tov is saying, no, those judgments can actually cause a lot of harm, a lot of damage. How important is it for us to think about this idea that, sometimes, we can see people who are doing things that are really wrong. And, maybe we can look at the action as being wrong. That doesn't mean we can judge the person as wrong. And there's a big difference between the action and the person. Just like, with children, we're told to, talk about the action. They did a good thing, they did a not so good thing, but don't talk about the person. You're good or you are bad. A child should never have to internalize the message that they're bad. They're not bad. Their action may have been bad, but they're not bad. And it's the same with all of us. We see someone else doing something wrong. That doesn't mean they're bad. And maybe they did something wrong. Maybe the action is wrong. Maybe the action is something we need to avoid. But the person is always good, and that's really important for us to really to internalize that message. I think there are a lot of people who talk about how there's sinas chinam, there's hatred among Jews. We all have so many different groups or sects of Judaism. We all have different approaches, and some people even have asked the question, well, how's Mashiach going to come? How are we ever going to be redeemed if sinas chinam, baseless hatred is the cause of all our problems? If we have all these different approaches, right? If we have all these different groups, all these different types, how are we ever going to fix this problem? And in truth, I think there's a big mistake. Hopefully, if we understand it properly, to have different approaches, different opinions, different ideals, that doesn't have anything to do with sinas chinam, of hatred. We can disagree with each other. We can even say that the other approach is actually wrong, and they may in fact be. They may in fact be approaches that are in fact heretical or wrong. That's okay. We can have such an approach that doesn't have anything to do with hatred. Hatred is when we go ahead and judge the person and say this person is bad. That's a very different type of approach. We're not here to judge others or to look at other people as bad. We have to love all, respect all, and care for all, and that's the right approach. just like the Baal Shem Tov, we don't judge the person. We can judge the approach. We can judge the ideology. We can judge the philosophy. We can say this is an incorrect approach, and perhaps even our responsibility to do that at times. But very important to always make sure we're separating the action from the person, and hopefully we will indeed merit the coming of the Mashiach in our days.